I'll be drafting this pattern for a 4-year-old bodice. I've already measured the shoulder to the waist, and I added ½ inch for the shoulder seam and then ½ inch for the waist seam. If you're going to join the front to the back, you join the shoulder seam and you join the waist to the skirt pattern. This bodice for the 4-year-old girl can be used for making dresses. Like if you have a dress that you're trying to make, maybe a ball dress, you can use this pattern to make it. So the first thing we're going to do is to measure the shoulder. The shoulder of the 4-year-old is 9.5, and I'm making a sleeveless dress, by the way, so it's the pattern that I'm using to make the sleeveless dress, but you can adapt this pattern to make regular dresses with sleeves. The only difference is that I'm going to try to make the armhole a bit tighter than if it had sleeves, so that it doesn't gape or there's no space in between. So the shoulder measurement is 9.5. You just take your tape. If you don't have strength to be using calculator, you just take your tape and you fold it in half. So this is 9.5 and you fold it in half, and it gives you 4.75, I think. You take that measurement and replicate here. The total measurement I give here is the chest divided by 4 plus seam allowance 2 inch. I usually do like ½ inch for ease, so that if the child is big or the child is growing, the child will fit into the dress, and just so that the child is comfortable, sort of. You can find measurements on children on the internet. You can Google up like children or girls measurement sizes or girls measurement charts, or you can measure the child. Some children are slightly bigger. Let's say you have your 4-year-old child. Some 4-year children are as big as a 6-year-old child. So if your child is bigger or chubbier, you want to consider using the size for an older child, maybe like a 6-year-old child. If your child is chubby and she's 4-year-old, and if she's as big as a 6-year-old, you want to consider using measurement for 6-year-old. But you can also measure the child. Hopefully when I get a child, I'll show you how to measure your child. So the chest for the 4-year-old is 23 inches. So you take your measurement, your tape, and then you measure 23. You divide into 2, and then you divide into 4. That's in total you are dividing 23 by 4, and it's going to give you a total of 7.5 inches. So you just want to measure from maybe this shoulder point to, let's say, 5 inches downward or 6 inches downward. Yeah, let's do 6 inches downward will be our chest point. So that's this. Then we're going to add 2 inches, 1 inch for seam allowance, and okay, let's do 1.5. 1 inch for seam allowance and ½ inch for ease. Then the waist measurement is 21. So we're going to do the same thing. We divide by 4. Why we're dividing by 4 is because this is the fold. When you open it, it's going to give you front and back. So you're going to cut this piece into 4. The only thing is that the front piece will not have any division. It's going to be on fold, but the back piece is going to have, it's going to be divided. What am I trying to say? The front piece is going to be 2 patterns, but in one piece. The back piece is going to be 2 patterns in 2 different pieces. So that's why we're dividing by 4. So we're taking the circumference of the waist and the chest and dividing by 4. It's just like we're dividing the body into 4. So the waist measurement is 21 inches. The waist circumference is 21 inches. So you just take your tape. This kind of saves time for me instead of pressing calculator all the time. So you divide the first time and then you do the second time and you get the measurement and you place on your pattern paper. You can buy these pattern papers in your regular bookshops. I'm going to leave the link to the Jumia link. I'm going to leave the Jumia link. It's like an affiliate link, so if you buy from the link, I get a percentage. You want to consider supporting your girl by buying from the Jumia link. So let's join the lines together. We join the waist. This my ruler is a bit crooked, so we join our waist and our hip. Okay, let's go to the shoulder. Then from the shoulder we're going to mark our neck depth and neck width. Now children, because of their small bodies, you cannot just go and mark out any kind of size. Like for this neck circumference, you want to measure out the child's neck from the center of the neck to the shoulder seam should start. I think it's better to measure it so that it is not too wide. But for me, I have 2.5 inches. So we're going to make it 2.5 inches so that plus or minus when we sew, it's going to be like a total of 6 inches, right? Yeah, so this is 2.5 inches. And then the depth, you also want to make sure that it is not too deep. The depth is 2.25. Yep. So we're going to draw a straight line. I kind of like the boat neck feel. This feels too deep, so I'll just take it. I'll draw a curve, not too deep, like you see how it's going, so that the neck will not be too deep for the child. So let's see how many inches I went up by here. So we'll say we'll go up by 1 inches. Yep, that's okay. Then remember that this is the shoulder seam, so you're going to just join the line. But before you join the line, you go down by, let's do 0.75 inches, and then you join it here. All these special tools like the French curve, this and that, I feel like it's just optional to me though. You mustn't get those things, but if you have the money, sure, why not? I'll be leaving links for you to purchase all those tools if you have the need for it. So for the armhole depth, I have 5.5 inches, but I'm going to be using 4 inches. I'll take away 1.5 inches. I got this armhole depth from the standard what's it called, children measurement rather. So I'm going to go up by 0.5 inches. Let's go up by 0.5 inches. Yeah, this is accurate, 0.5 inches. And then we're going to draw a curve. If you own a French curve, this is the point that you use your French curve to draw the line. Then at 2.5 inches here, so this is 4 inches, and then I will not do midpoint because I feel like it's going to be too inside, so I'm going to do maybe 1.5 from, I'm going to take 1.5 inches from the 4 inch armhole depth, and then that will be the middle. And from this middle point, we're going to mark 0.5 inches just to go slightly inside, because the front is usually more inside than the back. This should do. The only thing I'm worried about is this my curve, but I think I would cut it better when I'm So this should work for me. No, I'm not a professional pattern drafter, but this should work. So let's cut out. Remember not to use your fabric scissors. You need to have a special scissors that should do this job of cutting on paper. So we're going to be cutting. Now we have all of our seam allowances here, so we're not adding any extra seam allowance. I added 1 inch for cut our armhole.
I can also work for you. I feel like also work for you. Okay, so we have our front pattern ready.
We're just going to take the same paper and then place at the back on another paper like this, and then we're going to pin it. I'm going to pin it flat, and I think I need to pin it a little bit higher. So I want to slant it a bit. Okay, let me do from here. How is it going to be now? I want to create a bit of a slant. So let me do from here. I want to create a bit of a slant. I'm just trying to figure out how to create that slant from here. Okay, let me just measure 1.5, 1 inch, and I'll measure 3/4 inch, and I'll measure 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. So that's going to create a slant for me. This will help your zip to lay flat without any bulging. And even if it's a child's dress doesn't really have much of this drama, but because their bodies are not fully formed, but you need to make provision just if the child is, Then we're going to join this line. So we're going to go up by 1 inch. I went up down here by I'm going to go up here by maybe 0.75 inch.
Like this, make it pop like this, make it not like this, make it drop.
Then at this point, we're going to add back our 0.5 inch for the tube, just because the back and the front. To me, I feel like they're not the same.
Make it pop like this, make it not like this, make it drop.
So that the back can be covered. This is a good technique for most patterns. Then for the waistline, you want to come down by 0.5 inch. So this is zip allowance. 3-year-old dress bodice pattern. This will be our front, and then this is the back. You cut this times 2 and you cut this times 1. Area too, I'm not sure.